Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Today we're going to look at a Japanese classic car. It's the Honda and the Honda N series of cars. N just meaning norimono in Japanese, or translated to vehicle or car. This is an early car, so we're talking about the 60s, so really Hondas were more known for the motorbikes at the time, hence why it was referred to as just car. Now, the N360, which was the smallest engine car, was produced from 1967 to 1972. The one that were more famous for in Europe and Britain, and even went over to the US, was the N600. Now, the N600 was basically just the same car with a larger engine. 600cc 40 brake horsepower engine, which doesn't sound a lot today, but there's some reasons why it was quite a clever car. As we know, the Japanese, when they first started into car production and moving into Europe and the UK, tended to be really influenced by the cars there. Some may even say copied. Now, the N series, let's say the N600, was really inspired by the Mini that came out in 1959 and was a huge success, of course. The clever thing about the N600 was that even though it was a tiny engine, it had 40 brake horsepower and really had the power of, say, an 1100cc engine. So it was more than capable in performance and economy terms of taking on the Mini. It was about the equivalent price of a Mini 850, and it was more powerful than that. But of course, the Mini was the true hero and the true successor, of course. The brochure we're going to look at today is for that Honda N600. And as it says at the top here, if I get my sides right, it's saying new from Honda. So this is one of the first brochures in the UK for this model. I always think when looking at the front of this, it's almost like these indicators were kind of like forgotten about in the design and was just kind of like tacked on later on. But still, a very cute car and some very clever little design cues that we'll have a look at now. So here we have inside the first page of this N600, and you can see it is sort of like a mini idea, I guess, Japanese idea of a Mini. You can see certain clues, design clues of it being a Mini. Interesting, it does show like little vents at the back of the car, almost indicating that it would be a rear-wheel drive car, but no, it's just the same as the Mini. It's a front-engined, front-wheel drive, two-door, four-passenger car. And if you look on the far right-hand side, that sort of boot or rear luggage area certainly reminds me of a Mini with them sort of exposed hinges. But certainly a clever little car, a reliable little car that Honda became famous for. And indeed, it was actually tested by a British motor magazine when it came over to the UK. So November 68, it was tested. They said it did a top speed of 77.1 miles per hour, 0 to 60 time of 19 seconds, and returning 36.3 miles per gallon. At that time in the UK, it would have been £589 plus taxes. And just for a comparison, a Mini 850 was £561. So really in that competitive zone. They also said that 600cc engine, because it was a small revvy engine, was the equivalent to an 1100 in performance terms. But they did say it was very noisy, a real screamer of an engine, and you can really imagine it being extremely noisy in there. It was reasonably well equipped though, although when you look at the interior it certainly doesn't remind you of a 60s car. There's no nice wood etc and chrome in there. It is just black, but it is padded, which was a big thing at the time. In 1969 it was actually exported to the US, where it must have looked extremely small next to all those huge American cars at the time. However, it was an important historical vehicle there because it actually was the first Honda exported to the US, and of course the US became a huge market for Honda. And here is the back page of the car brochure. It's saying on here maximum speed of over 80 miles per hour, so certainly more than that British Motor Magazine claimed it would do, 77.1. The accelerator is on par though, 19.7 seconds. And the exact cubic capacity for this car is actually 598.7 cc's and 45 brake horsepower. The transmission is a 4-speed gearbox, and like we say, front wheel drive, and it would have been drum brakes all round. It also shows on here the acceleration and vehicle speed and the engine performance curve. I think they're including this really because anybody in the time in the UK would have looked at this and thought 598cc, that's going to be far too slow and ponderous, I'll stick to my Mini. So they're really trying to show that even though it's got a very small engine, the performance is right up there with a Mini. And at the bottom there it says printed in Japan, 1967-9. I presume that means September 1967, which makes sense as this is kind of like the first brochure for the N600. So there we go, the Honda N600. I really would have loved to have driven one of these small cars. I bet they're a lot of fun trying to keep up with modern traffic. And I must confess, small cars are some of my favourite vehicles out there. Thank you for watching this very short video on the N600. There will of course be many more brochure reviews coming up very shortly, so I do appreciate it when you like and subscribe and comment. I will of course reply to all your comments. But for now we'll say take care and goodbye.